One thing you quickly learn as a digital nomad is that your money does not stretch the same in every country. In some places, $50 barely covers a coffee, a co-working seat, and a ride back to your hostel. In others, it's more than enough for a private apartment, great food, reliable Wi-Fi, and maybe even a massage. So, in this video, I'm gonna walk you through 10 destinations around the world where you can comfortably live on $50 a day or less. Some of these spots are already on your radar, others might surprise you, but all of them offer the kind of value that makes you wonder why you did not pack up sooner. So, let's start with a place that completely surprised me in the best way: Oaxaca, Mexico. I ended up there on a whim and was honestly blown away by how livable it was. You've got this colorful colonial city with amazing food, art everywhere, and some of the friendliest people I've ever met. But what really stuck out? How cheap everything was without it ever feeling like I was sacrificing comfort. I stayed in a private room right near the city center for about $15 a night, and I'm not talking bare minimum here. It was quiet, clean, and came with a courtyard full of plants and a hammock. A lot of people doing long stays rent local apartments or Airbnbs for even less per night if you go monthly. Food is where Oaxaca really shines. Between the tlayudas, mole, tamales, and street snacks, I couldn't pronounce but happily ate anyway. I barely spent more than $2 or $3 per meal. There's also a growing digital nomad scene, a couple of solid co-working spots, plus cafes with surprisingly stable Wi-Fi. I bounced between Convivo and a few local coffee shops during the day, then wandered through markets at night. Honestly, it was one of the easiest places to get into a good routine. And if you ever need a reset, the Pacific Coast is just a few hours away. Places like Manzunte and Zipolite are cheap, laid back, and filled with people doing the exact same thing you are. So, if you're looking for somewhere in Latin America that's cheap, delicious, and full of life, Oaxaca is a no-brainer. I honestly don't know many places where you can live this well on this little. But if Southeast Asia is more your speed, there's one place that has been a favorite among digital nomads for years, and for good reason. Chiang Mai is one of those places that everyone talks about, and honestly, it lives up to the hype. It's in northern Thailand, surrounded by mountains, temples, and cafes on just about every corner. I wasn't even trying to be frugal here and somehow still managed to stay under $50 a day. I stayed in a serviced apartment for about $300 a month. It had air conditioning, a little balcony, decent Wi-Fi, and was within walking distance to just about everything I needed. For meals, I mostly ate out. Because why not when you can get a plate of khao soi or pad kra pao for like $2? Street food in Chiang Mai is next level. It's also a great place to get into a routine. I'd grab a coffee in the morning, work from cafes or a co-working space like Pun Space or Yellow, grab lunch at a market, maybe get a massage in the afternoon. It just worked. Everything's close, cheap, and chill. And on weekends, there's a ton to do. You've got the sticky waterfalls, elephant sanctuaries, cooking classes, jungle hikes. It's a solid balance of productivity and adventure. I originally booked a week. I stayed for over a month and would go back in a heartbeat. But if you're more of a beach and surf type and looking for something with a slower pace and ocean views instead of mountains, the next place might be exactly what you're after. Santa Teresa is one of those places that sneaks up on you. It's a dusty little surf town on Costa Rica's Pacific coast, and I'll be honest, I didn't expect much at first, but it ended up being one of the most laid-back and unexpectedly affordable places I've worked from. There's basically one main road that runs through town, and everything you need is right off of it. I stayed in a small guest house a short walk from the beach for about $25 a night. Nothing fancy, but clean, quiet, and tucked away under some palm trees. You'll find a lot of other solo travelers and remote workers here too. Food is a mix of budget-friendly and surprisingly good. You can grab a big plate of casado, a traditional Costa Rican meal with rice, beans, plantains, salad, and meat for $5 or $6. Or hit up one of the bakeries for fresh empanadas and coffee for even less. Internet speeds are decent if you're staying somewhere with fiber, and more cafes and hostels are catering to people who need to get work done. The sunsets are ridiculous. Every evening, people head down to the beach, grab a beer or a coconut, and just watch the sky change colors. It's hard not to feel like you're living well here. But if you're craving something even cheaper, with just just as much natural beauty and a completely different vibe. Wait until you see the next spot. Siem Reap doesn't usually top the digital nomad list, but I honestly think it's one of the most underrated places to live on a budget. Most people only come here to see Angkor Wat, which is incredible, don't get me wrong. But what surprised me was just how livable the town actually is once the tour groups leave. It's got a calm pace, great food, and some of the lowest day-to-day costs I've experienced anywhere. I was staying in a small guest house for around $10 a night. Private room, hot water, decent Wi-Fi, and a host who gave me mangoes every morning. I probably could have found something even cheaper if I tried. And for food, I was eating at local spots for $2 to $3 a meal. Loklak, noodle soups, fresh smoothies, you won't go hungry here. There are a few co-working spaces around, but honestly, most of my work days were spent at quiet cafés with fans spinning above my head and strong Cambodian iced coffee on the table. It was simple, but it worked. Also, getting around is super easy. You can rent a bike or just grab tuk-tuks through local apps for $1 or $2. And if you want a break from screens, Angkor Wat and the surrounding temples are basically an open-air museum right in your backyard. I came for the temples, stayed for the lifestyle. Now, if you like your budget destinations with a side of beaches, island hopping, and kind of a nightlife that sneaks up on you, the next location should be on your radar. Cebu is one of those places that kind of has it all. Big city energy, crystal clear beaches, jungle waterfalls, and the kind of affordability that makes you double check your budget because it feels like you're forgetting something. I stayed just outside Cebu City in a local guest house for around $12 a night. Clean room, friendly hosts, and fast Wi-Fi, which, by the way, is actually solid in a lot of places now, especially in cafes and co-working spots. I was able to take calls, upload content, and stream without much of an issue. Food here is simple but filling, and definitely easy on the wallet. You'll find plenty of carinderias, which are like family-friendly stalls serving home-cooked meals for about $1 or $2. Grilled meats, fried rice, noodles, it's comfort food, Filipino style. You can also splurge on seafood for crazy cheap prices compared to what you'd pay elsewhere. The real magic, though, is outside the city. On weekends, I'd take a bus down to Molbol or Oslob for beaches and diving, or head inland to explore waterfalls like Kawasan. Some of the island hopping tours are under $20 for an entire day, including lunch. There's a growing nomad community here, especially in the smaller beach towns, and the locals are genuinely some of the friendliest people I've ever met. Cebu gave me the work-life balance I didn't know I needed. But maybe tropical isn't your thing. Maybe you want somewhere that's like Europe, walkable, filled with history, and still incredibly budget-friendly. Well, this next location might just steal your heart. Medellin wasn't even on my radar at first, and now I can't shut up about it. The city has all the crazy mix of spring weather year-round, colorful neighborhoods, fast internet, and a cost of living that's almost suspiciously low for how modern it feels. I rented a room in an apartment in Lorales, one of the chill, walkable neighborhoods, for around $12 a night. Clean, safe, with a balcony and great Wi-Fi. Food-wise, you can eat like a king here without spending much at all. Menu del dia lunches soup, rice, meat, salad, juice go for about $3 or $4, and they fill you up. Arepas, empanadas, fresh juice on every corner. There's also a big digital nomad community in Medellin, especially in areas like Poblado and Lorales. Tons of cafes and co-working spaces, solid infrastructure, and a lot of people doing remote work, so it's easy to connect. And when you need a break, just hop on the cable cars for a view of the whole valley, or take a weekend trip to nearby towns like Guatape. It's modern, it's affordable, and it's ridiculously easy to settle into a rhythm here. But let's say you're more into ancient cities, desert views, and sunsets over sandstone rooftops. The next spot has it all, and maybe the most underrated place on this entire list. Chefchaouen is one of those places that doesn't look real when you first arrive. The entire town is painted in different shades of blue, tucked up in the Rif Mountains, and it feels like something out of a dream or a desktop wallpaper. It's also one of the cheapest places I've ever stayed. I booked a private room in a riad, basically a traditional Moroccan guest house, for around $8 a night, breakfast included. Food here is super affordable. You can grab a full tagine for a few dollars, or pick up street snacks like mezmen or haraya for pocket pocket change. Not sure I pronounced those exactly correct, but you get the point. Even the touristy restaurants don't feel overpriced. Everything's slow, relaxed, and full of flavor. Wi-Fi is decent depending on where you stay. I wouldn't rely on working from the cafes here since they're more for relaxing and sipping tea. But most riads and hostels have enough strong connections for remote work, especially if you're just writing or doing light tasks. Chefchaouen isn't a big digital nomad hub, but it's perfect if you're looking for a quiet, peaceful spot to work, reflect, and reset. But if you're craving a bit more energy but still want to keep things cheap, wait until you see where we're headed next. Tbilisi is one of those cities that totally caught me off guard. I went in with zero expectations and left wondering why more people aren't talking about it. The city itself is this mix of old and new, cobblestone streets and historic bathhouses right next to modern glass buildings and trendy cafes. It's incredibly walkable, has a great metro system, and you can find a fully furnished apartment for around $250 to $300 a month, easy. That breaks down to less than $10 a day for rent, which still blows my mind. Eating out is cheap and delicious. You've got khachapuri, khinkali, grilled meats, and soups that are weirdly comforting, even when you don't know what's in them. Full meals often cost less than $5, and you're eating well. Add a glass of local wine, which is also super affordable, and you're set. Tbilisi also surprisingly is good for remote work. The internet is fast, cafes are everywhere, and there are a bunch of co-working spaces that cater to freelancers and nomads. Plus, Georgia has one of the easiest digital nomad visas out there, and you can stay up to a year without much paperwork. There's something about the pace of life here too. It's not slow exactly, but it's not stressful. You can get stuff done, meet people, explore, and never feel rushed. And just when you think it can't get any better, you remember that the mountains, hot springs, and wine country are all just a short trip away. But maybe you're thinking more about food markets, beach sunsets, and colonial streets that make you feel like you've stepped back in time. That's exactly where we're going next. Cartagena is heat, color, music, and movement, all wrapped in one insanely photogenic package. The old town feels like a movie set with bright buildings, balconies overflowing with flowers, and street vendors selling everything from fruit to fresh arepas. It's not the cheapest city in Colombia overall, but if you know where to look and avoid staying in the heart of the tourist zone, it's absolutely possible to live here on $50 a day or less. I stayed just outside the walled city in a neighborhood called Gethsemane and paid around $20 a night for a simple room with air conditioning and fast Wi-Fi. Street food here is on another level. You've got fresh ceviche, fried plantains, empanadas, and cold coconut water on every corner. Most meals cost $3 to $5, and you can eat like a local without blowing your budget. There are lots of cafes and reliable Wi-Fi, and a couple of co-working spaces if you want something more structured. I'd usually get my work done in the morning, then spend the afternoon exploring the old town or catching the sunset by the beach. And speaking of beaches, if you hop on a boat for 30 minutes, you'll find clear blue water and chilled out islands like Tierra Bomba or Playa Blanca. It's the perfect balance between productivity and paradise. But as much as I loved Cartagena, the final spot on this list is the one that surprised me the most. It's calm, scenic, and somehow even cheaper than everything we've talked about so far. Pokhara might be the most peaceful place I've ever worked from, and it also happens to be one of the cheapest. It's a lakeside town tucked in the foothills of the Himalayas, and everything about it feels slower, quieter, and somehow more intentional. Mornings usually start with mist over the lake, prayer flags flapping in the wind, and the sound of someone sweeping their front step. It's the kind of place that makes you breathe a little deeper without even realizing it. Rent here is incredibly affordable. I found a private room with a balcony and mountain views for around $8 a night. Monthly rentals go for even less, especially if you're staying a while. And the food, dal bhat, momos, fresh naan, local thupka, it's all hearty, flavorful, and costs around $2 or $3 per meal. There are a few co-working spaces and plenty of cafes with surprisingly strong Wi-Fi. I had no problem getting work done. And when I wasn't working, I'd take long walks by the lake or rent a scooter and head out into the hills. It's quiet, It's cheap, and it might be the perfect place to disappear for a while and focus on your next big thing. That's the list. 10 places where you can live comfortably on just $50 a day. Got a favorite? Or know a cheap spot I should check out? Drop it in the comments. And if this helped, give it a like and share it with someone planning their next move. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.